Hi, my name is Glenn Smyth, CEO and founder of Fragile to Agile. Welcome to the fourth video in our series on developing an outcomes and capability-driven roadmap for your organization's technology. If you haven't yet watched the overview video to this series, we recommend you do so. But by way of providing you context, this video covers the fourth step in this process: understanding, or in some cases defining, the organization's operating model, and determining what this means for capability standardization. Firstly, what would we mean by operating model in this context? For the purposes of roadmap development, we're using the term as it's used in this seminal book from MIT and published by Harvard Press. We believe this book to be mandatory reading for all enterprise architects. It uses the term operating model at a higher level than its typical use, say in an MBA. To differentiate between them at Fragile to Agile, we refer to this as an organization's operating model type. The decision is driven by the level of desired process standardization and the level of desired process integration across the business units in an organization. There are lots of implications for an organization depending on which operating model type applies, and for those we encourage you to read the book. But for the purposes of roadmap development, we're interested in what it means for capability standardization. Firstly, why do we care? And specifically, why do we care for technology roadmap development? Well, if we don't know whether the right target state for a capability is for it to be standardized or not, we don't know when doing current state assessment whether having multiple solutions for a capability is an issue or in fact the correct answer for the organization. Similarly, when defining the target state of whether one solution is required or multiple. For the diversified operating model, largely conglomerates, no capabilities are standardized across business units. For replicated and unified, every capability is standardized. For the coordinating model, some capabilities are standardized and some are not. In our experience at Fragile to Agile, this is the most common of the four that we encounter. Generally, it doesn't take longer than a single meeting for an organization's leadership to decide on their operating model type. And for 3 of the 4 of these, no further work is required for roadmap development, as a capability is standardized or not standardized for all capabilities in these operating models. For the coordinated operating model type, further work is required to determine which of the capabilities will be standardized and which will be non-standardized. Firstly, without a capability model, which you developed in a prior step, there is no way of even having the conversation, and therefore no way of actually enacting, or dare I say, operationalizing the operating model type decision. It will remain theoretical. Secondly, this seems more difficult than it usually is in practice. 80% of the decisions are what they would call no-brainers in America and are made in a 2-hour workshop with the leadership. We usually then time-box discussions on the remaining 20% of the capabilities to 2 weeks. And at the end of that, you cannot agree whether it makes sense to standardize a capability, then it is non-standardized by default. Move on. Okay, so how do you facilitate or guide this decision-making process? The first step is to consider the key set of drivers listed here and discuss what that means for various capabilities. For example, if one of the business units competes on cost and the other on service, it's highly unlikely that it makes sense to standardize the customer relationship management capability. This level of analysis, going through these key decisions, will typically help make a good percentage of the standardization, non-standardization calls. For the rest, we find the most effective way of facilitating decision-making is by going through the implications of the decision with the key stakeholders, i.e., if you decide a capability standardized, what does it actually mean? Well, here lists what it means if you do decide, and they're shown on this slide for standardized capabilities. There will be only one technology solution for the capability for the whole organization. There'll be a single governance body for approving changes to the capability. Overall lower cost at the organization level, but reduced agility in this capability because changes need to be agreed by all. On the other hand, if you decide a capability non-standardized, these are some of the implications on this slide. The capability can be done in different ways in different business units, independence, governance within each business unit. Overall higher cost for the capability, but increased agility, if you like, because each business unit is empowered to make its decisions on its own and doesn't need to consult elsewhere. Finally, we covered the binary case, but in reality, in large organizations, there can be a middle option. That we're going to standardize this capability across some business units, but not all of our business units. For example, we will standardize this across retail and business banking, but not institutional banking. You can see this on this diagram here, and this is what you typically want to end up with. Overlaying the capability model that shows which capabilities are standardized for the whole organization, non-standardized for the whole organization, and which in the middle are standardized from some business units and not others. Thank you. Hope it was of interest and value. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to our channel. You'll find lots more of interest to you, I hope. Thank you.